Awesome. So my name is Justin Moore. I work for NCC Group as a security consultant. I have built an improved version of the Burp Suite decoder. Just by a show of hands, who here has ever opened Burp Suite in their life and knows what it is? Okay, so like basically everybody, but like Burp Suite is like the tool for doing web application security. There's like basically no other option. So myself and all my coworkers use this thing every day. It's not that great, but it works. I had one coworker in particular who was like, I really like this decoder thing. Basically, it's a little frame, and you can put text or random data in it, and then like click some options, and it'll like base64 encode it for you, or base64 decode it for you, or like URL encoder and whatnot, which is like super useful. You know, you're doing stuff, you want to look at it. It's great. But the one that's built into Burp is not so great. It doesn't have tabs. There's like a ton of bugs in it. It doesn't handle Unicode characters very well. There's this like smart decode button that's not very good. So anyway, so my coworker reached out to Portswigger, the developers of Burp Suite, and was like, hey, I'd really like if we could get tabs on this decoder thing. This decoder, it's pretty good, but it doesn't have tabs, so it's basically worthless. They said no because it would involve a whole rewrite of it. So we had a training night at my work where we learned how to write Burp Suite plugins. So I was like, oh great, I'll take this on from my coworker. He really wants this thing. It'll be super easy. There's this decoder. I can do maybe some swing stuff. I'll add like a tabbed pane, however that works. And I can just take the decoder and put it in this pane, and it'll be great. It'll take like an afternoon. We'll be done. Everybody will be happy. It'll have tabs and be good. Turns out that's not how writing Burp plugins works. So I started this thing, and then I committed to it, and it basically turned into me like rewriting this whole decoder thing from scratch, and it was complicated, and it took like a whole ton of time. So I'm here to like pimp out this thing so that way more people use it, so I didn't waste all this time building this stupid Burp plugin. This is like the most straightforward thing ever. It's like literally just an improved version of the built-in Burp decoder. If you've ever used it, it is just a better version of that with tabs and less bugs and all that stuff. I'm going to go through. The source code is all going to be open source in the future, so it's going to be super easy to extend. You're doing a project for work or whatever, and you're like, this thing's weird. I need to decode it without putting it in like my command line or whatever. I don't like that. I like GUIs. So you can extend this thing to make it super easy to do any kind of decoding needs. Great. So just a brief overview of how this is going to go. I'll tell you more about why the built-in decoder is bad. I'll tell you why mine is better. I'll tell you why you should just nobody write Burp plugins. It is a waste of time. It is god awful. And then I'll show you what the regular one is. I'll show you why mine's better. It's very clear. I'll give you like the easy demo on how to extend it. It takes like 2 seconds to write your own custom decoders. You basically just extend the class, write a little bit of code. It's super quick. And then I'll tell you where to find it, which is basically nowhere right now. You have to email me. So, to start, like I said, the built-in one is like, it's so useful. It's like, you think if it just had tabs, it'd be so good. There's like all these other things in Burp Suite that have tabs. They're all over the place. There's like a repeater thing. It has tabs. If it didn't have tabs, it'd be worthless. All these things, more tabs. Everything needs tabs. Browsers have tabs. We need tabs. This thing doesn't have tabs, and they didn't want to make it have tabs. So it needed tabs. It doesn't handle Unicode, so if you like want to decode emojis or something, it just like truncates them. So it'll take the first byte of your data and then just like scrap the rest of it. So if you're doing anything with like non-ASCII data, decoder just doesn't work. It'll get all weird and messed up. We've had people on projects who are like, why is this happening? I didn't even realize this at the start of me doing it. I was just like using this decoder more and more, and realizing it did less and less, and things don't work. Also, there's no way to extend it. You just get what you have, which it does have some useful things, like, you know, decoding things, basic decoring things are all good and useful. Use it like all the time at work. You know, everything's URL encoded in Burp, so you want to be able to read the things. So you need to decode them. Oh yeah. So the hex editor that's built into this thing, you can't like add bytes to it. So like you start and then you go to edit the hex. You can only do like one thing at a time. You have to like double click it. And then you start typing, and then it does this weird truncation thing, and then you can't make it longer, so you can't like add bytes to it. So you can't really like do hex editing very well. So that's basically worthless. And then there's this smart decode button that does something, but I've never been able to get it to work. So like, I remember when I started doing like web application security, I needed to do some decoding. And I open up this Burp decoder, and I'm like, oh, smart decode. Like, I have some base64 data, it's totally base64 data, or I have some URL encoded data. So I just press this button, and it should just work. Never works. It's never, maybe like one time. I think it only like URL decodes or something. Anyway, it's not good. So I nixed that. I got rid of it. It's not a problem anymore. Now, the list of features mine has. So it does everything the built-in one does. It's at complete feature parity, minus bugs. I added the tabs. That was like feature numero uno. Added Unicode support, which was like a huge hassle, but it works pretty well now. I took this hex editor that's open source from the Xpin project. There's one dude making it. I don't think anybody else is using this hex editor. It's like this guy has spent a ton of time making a hex editor as a swing component. So I hit this guy up on IRC, and I was like, hey, is anybody else using this? He said no. There were some bugs in it. He like fixed the bugs for me. He pushed everything to Gradle or some repository to make my build process work. The guy's super nice, so I wanted to say thank you to him. So I stole his hex editor and put it in my Burp plugin. So the hex editing is like fantastic. I built in arbitrary numeric base conversion, so you can turn like base 2 numbers into base whatever numbers into base whatever numbers. By default, Burp only does like binary to octal and hex and decimal, I think. It does like the major ones. But if you ever have like base 7 numbers and need them to be like base 17, my tool will do that. So, predicting the future. I added some find and replace function because there's often a lot of times where I'll have something like a JSON blob, and I'm like, okay, I have this value in here, but I want it to be this other thing, like always. But every time I want to change that, I have to like copy this blob and like paste it somewhere, and then like go in there and find it and highlight it and put my new thing in there. And that sucked. So I took, and you can do regular expression-based find and replaces across text. You just set it up, paste your stuff in, and it'll do the find and replace for you. That's very nice. Another thing that the regular Burp decoder doesn't do, or does do, is whenever you go to encode something, either HTML or URL, it will just do the entire string, which is almost always not what you want. So there's like lots of characters that I like to be able to read, and if you go to encode it to URL, it turns them all into the URL representation of those characters, which is not readable by humans. I don't like that. So I added a button where it only does special characters, because that's what you like. You never want the whole thing URL encoded. You only want the special characters. So there's a button for that. For whatever reason, the built-in decoder does some hashing. You can like hash stuff, but it doesn't have that many algorithms, and they're not in a sensible order. So I took and included Bouncy Castle, and I exposed every single hashing algorithm in Bouncy Castle is available through my plugin, and they're in an order that makes sense, alphabetical or whatever the Bouncy Castle documentation uses. I think I went with parity with that. So they're all there, and then it is like super easy to extend this thing. If you want to add new features, it's basically you pull my source code, you implement, you write one class, you implement one function, and then like you include it in an array list, and we're good. You recompile the plugin, re-include it, it works. Everything, all the magic's taken care of for you. Brief aside on why like nobody should do this. I don't know if the Portswigger people are here. Does anybody here work for Portswigger? All right, good. So the API for writing Burp Suite plugins is like so bad. It doesn't, like, you want to be able to like do things with it. Like you figure like, okay, I'm going to write code, and it's going to write inside this this Burp Suite, which is good, which is what I want. Except for the API that they give you doesn't let you do that, or really anything. So there's like some things that my plugin I would like it to do, but there's like no way to get at the like Burp, like way that Burp touches it, unless you do some like crazy stuff with reflection and like carry up objects and stuff. But then that gets broken every time you update Burp, so that sucks. So I just had to like not have some features, which is unfortunate. But yeah, so basically every plugin you write is like a second-class citizen inside Burp. Also, all the UI work is done inside Swing, which I'm a younger person, so I kind of missed the point in my career where I would have been like a Java Swing developer. That would be like, I guess if you worked as a developer in like 2005 or something, you were probably writing like Java Swing code. So I was like, oh, I graduated from college, I'll never have to do this, it's going to be great. And then Portsmouth just like drugged me back into there, so I spent like a whole ton of time writing Swing code. If you've ever had to do it, I feel sorry for you. It doesn't make sense. It's like, you do it, just don't do it. It's terrible. It's a thing that I'm like now kind of proficient at, and it's just like a wasted skill I have. I spent all this time learning how to do Swing development. It's just not good. And then that's basically everything. Yeah, the API is not good. Swing's bad. Java, not so bad. I'm okay with Java. It's coming around. You can write plugins in like Python and Ruby also, but they're kind of like, if regular plugins are second-class citizens, they're like third-class citizens because there's like an extra shim wrapper thing. And I was like, this thing's already terrible enough. I don't need an extra hack on top of this to make it more confusing and have things work less good. So yeah, all right. That's why nobody should do it. If anybody's in the market for writing one of these, I suggest you just don't use Burp. You just write your own web proxy thing, or maybe use like man-in-the-middle proxy. Maybe there's like better alternatives now. If anybody knows of them, just like let me know. I'm trying to ditch this thing; it's not good. Yeah, cool. Oh yeah. So my tool. All right. So for those who haven't seen Burp Suite before, this is Burp Suite. If you have a job in web application security or you're interested in it, I highly recommend you learn how to use this tool. Basically, everybody uses it. This is the regular decoder tab. As you can see here, there's like the decode as, the encode as, the hash. Just a basic demo. It's like you type in like words. You see there, I typed in test, and then like let's say I wanted to base64 encode that. I click on that little box, and then I press base64. Also, another thing great about this, it goes away. How do I know what I did there except for I look at it? Why would it do that? Why doesn't this thing? I want to know. So then it's base64, and then you can like, decode it as base64. Just the same. That's useful. It's a good thing to have. But it has all the issues, whatever. The hex editor is not good. So here's my tool. It looks basically exactly the same, and it does exactly the same stuff. Whoops. There you go. See, look, it works the same. You encode stuff, you decode stuff, but you can see what it is. It says encode as base64, so I know what's going on. Yeah, and then there's tabs. Like you can make as many tabs as you want. So if you like have some text over here that I just closed, you can make like more words. It's like exactly what the name says. It is an improved version of the built-in Burp decoder. There's like no magic. I wish I had like sweet hacks to share with you guys or something, but this is just like what it is, and it's good. Yeah, the hex editor is great. As you can see here, it's very fancy. You can extend stuff. Those aren't valid characters, so they don't show up right, but if you do like a 4-1, see it all shows up, and then it all stays there. Everything's great. Now, how to extend this thing. Let's go back to here. Great. So, like I said, it's so easy to extend. Before I wrote this, extending it wasn't so great, and I had a coworker look at it, and he said it wasn't so great, and I agreed, so I made it all nice and object-oriented, where you just need to do like 2 things, and then you're good. You just clone my source code off of GitHub. That's not there yet because life is busy, so I didn't put it up there yet. But it'll be up there soon. There'll be on a blog post with all this information also. It also should be in the B App Store. If they let, hopefully it gets up in there, but I don't know what kind of limitations they have to uploading B apps. I'm assuming none. Maybe they're nice. I don't know. And then you create a new class that inherits from byte modifier. You implement the constructor, which is basically just calling super with the name of the thing you want to show up in the little drop-down list. And implementing the modify bytes method, which it takes 2 seconds. It takes in an array of bytes, and it returns an array of bytes. So everything's in bytes, because that's what data is. And then either you go in the encode mode class or decode mode class, depending on if you're encoding things or decoding things. And then there's an array list with like all of the other modes. It's super easy to see. It's not a big class. And you just make a new instance of the custom class you just wrote. You tuck it in there. You rebuild the source code, and then you reload the extension in the Burp extender. And then it just shows up and it works. And you click the thing on the drop down, and the thing you need is there, and it works. With source visualization, this is the source code for the plain text encoder. It's very simple because plain text is not doing anything. As you can see, you just extend one class, you implement the constructor, you just call super with the name of the thing that shows up in the dropdown, and then the modify bytes class. For this, it's super easy, it just returns the same thing. And then when you want it to add it, this is the code inside encode mode. You just look for the encoder's array list, and then encoders.add new plain text encoder. That's just the top one. There's a whole bunch underneath that. You probably tuck yours in at the bottom to not mess with the order. But if you don't like the order, you can also just rearrange it, rebuild the source code yourself. It takes no effort. And as of right now, like I said, it's nowhere on the internet. I'm the only person with access to this. So if you want this, if you decide that this will make your life so much better, send me an email. I will send you a jar, and then you can, if you trust me, run the jar on your computer. And that's about as good as it's going to get right now. I'm hoping, like, in the next few weeks, I'll have the source code up on GitHub, along with a blog post that basically just reiterates everything I just said. You don't even really need a blog post to extend this thing. You just look at that one slide and be like, oh, this is super easy. There's a little bit more instruction if you want to add like whole new modes and stuff. There's some stuff on how to do that inside my imaginary blog post that's only like 75% written. But as soon as that's all finished, it'll be up on the internet, and you can just check out NCC Group's GitHub repo, and it'll be there. There'll be some kind of announcement. Maybe I'll post it on like Reddit NetSec or something. That seems like a hackery type of thing to do. That'll probably get to everybody in this room. And beyond that, does anybody have any questions? Yes.
You're familiar with the OWASP's Z attack proxy?
Yes.
So, what would I think that's open source, isn't it?
I think so too. Yes.
So that's not a suitable alternative for you to build on?
So everybody I know who has used that, in full disclosure, I never have, just because I listen to all my coworkers. And it used to be, if you wanted to do WebSocket proxying, that was like kind of the only way to do it. But apparently support for that wasn't very good, and there was a lot of bugs in it. It would crash often. So basically, I never heard anything good about Zap. So I've just never used it. Burp is like not that great, but my company buys everybody pro licenses for it, so like I don't really have a reason to complain that much. Man in the middle proxy seems like it might be a decent alternative, but as of right now, I think this is about as good as it's going to get.
I remember looking at Charles or Fiddler. Charles is pretty good.
Yeah, so there's also those. I used Fiddler for the first time last week because I was on the side of the client, and that's all they had. It was pretty all right. I think the main issue is that everything that's not Burp Suite isn't as full featured as Burp Suite. But they do work. Like if you want a thing to proxy web traffic and look at it and poke at it, many things will do it. I think Burp Suite's just the one that has the most support. Yeah.
Does your plugin, like if you're highlighting text in like the proxy or whatever, does it have that send to decoder thing?
Yes, it does. Hopefully it works because there's a bug in it. I don't have any text here to send, which is an issue. But yeah, it should. Let's see if the thing will show up. Yeah, so there's a send to decoder improved option there. This is one of the things that it doesn't work in every single menu because the API doesn't expose a way to do it from every single kind of menu. Even the way that this is supported is kind of hacky. Like there's a weird context factory thing that it doesn't really make sense. But you can't get it for in. I think it works anywhere that there is like HTTP traffic would be sent or viewed inside Burp Suite. Anywhere else, I don't think it works. Also, you can't make it flash. So, like, usually if you like send to like repeater or send to decoder, it'll like flash orange. which is nice. I like that. It's a good feature. So I was like, I want that because it's flashing. Can't do it. I looked at the documentation. Because it's like a standalone jar that gets loaded, I don't think that kind of thing's exposed. If somebody knows how to do that, so you got some expert Burp plugin developers here. I would love to know how to make my thing blink, but I read the docs. I don't think it's in there.
Will this work with both the free and the licensed version? Or
Yep.
does it have to be licensed?
I think it's the free version too. They added extender to the free version. And this doesn't implement any functionality that the Pro version has, so they should be cool with it. I know there's like free plugins. It should just work.
Now that you've got all these skills that only really work for writing Burp Suite plugins, are you planning to make any more that improve Burp Suite?
God, no.
Other functions?
No. No. I didn't even want to make this one, but it was like I made some commitments. It's really like I thought it would be easier. I truly thought when I said I would do this, and I was like, okay, I'll take my time to do this. I told my coworker Nolan, I was like, hey, I will build this thing for you. This will make you happy. It's going to be super easy. I knew Swing. I didn't know Swing, but I was like, Swing is a thing, and it has components, so maybe I can just take this component and put it in there. It doesn't work that way. You'd think it would work that way. You think whatever. It doesn't. So I ended up having to do this, which took like so much time. Like the product is like super simple. It does a thing that basically already exists just with tabs, which is not the most valuable thing. I understand that. I spent a lot of my time doing this thing that is like maybe it wasn't the best use of my time, but that's why I'm here talking about it, to make all of you fine folks use it and make it so I didn't waste my time. And then I also did kind of rail about how Burp's not that great the whole time, which might not have been the best. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. Don't write Burp plugins. Like, unless you like writing Swing code and it's like a thing that you enjoy for whatever masochistic reason. I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah. But I'm pretty good at it now. So if you have any questions, you can email me. I'll hook you up.
On your track keeper, are you on a 30-minute presentation?
I thought it was just 20 minutes. Yeah, I think we're well over.
Yeah, you're well over.
Yeah, I tried to finish it at like 17 minutes, and then the questions. So, sorry about that.
No, that's my bad. I can't.
So I guess we're all good. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to hit me up. I will be at the NCC group recruiting booth for the rest of today until I drive home. Also, email me if you want this thing and you trust me. Otherwise, build it yourself. Look at the source code. It's open source under the most permissive license. No, that's a lie. It's not under the most permissive license because I don't want the Burp people to steal my stuff. So it's under some kind of license where they can't do that. Probably like a GNU one or something. Anyway, it should be good for all you guys. Awesome. Thanks.